We now call this regular scheduled Board of Supervisors meeting for January the 9th to order. If you could all rise for a moment of silence. All right. Mr. Farr, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have a fairly short agenda today. We're going to be getting into reorganization. Before we get into that and Candy takes off, it's been a great pleasure being chairing this board for the last 2 years. It's pretty chaotic at times. One of the things that we appreciate the most in being in a small town is being able to communicate with each other and be able to work on problems of this community and what we see in the future and how we decide that. Look forward to passing this baton on to the next one, and hopefully we get back into that regular cycle of getting each board member on as chair. So at this time, Candy, take it away.
Good afternoon. As the board is aware, it is our annual organizational meeting. This is done pursuant to the provisions of 15.2, 1416 of the Code of Virginia, and Chapter 2, Article 2 of the Code of the County of Nelson. This is where the Board of Supervisors conducts its annual organizational meeting at the first meeting in January of each year. Other matters to be determined by the Board of Supervisors, in addition to the appointment of a chairman and vice chairman, include the establishment of a schedule of regular and as applicable special meetings, the establishment of rules of order, and the establishment of a meeting agenda, and the establishment of board appointments, including a clerk, deputy clerk to the board, a zoning administrator, a hazardous materials coordinator, etc. So before we discuss the meeting particulars, I would now open the floor for nominations for chair for 2024.
I'd like to nominate David Parr for chair for 2024.
Second.
Okay, are there any other nominations or discussion? Okay, we'll now close the floor for nominations and call for the vote. Amanda?
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Ms. Lincoln?
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Mr. Parr. We'll now open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I guess, Dave, I move that we nominate Ernie Reed as vice chair.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other nominations from the floor? Okay, any other discussion? All right, call for the vote, Amanda?
Ms. Lincoln?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Okay, now for the board's consideration is Resolution R 2024-01. We currently have included in this resolution the current board meeting schedule for 2024. And this reads that regular meetings of the Board of Supervisors shall be conducted during calendar year 2024 in the General District Courtroom located in the Nelson County Courthouse in Livingston, Virginia, on the second Tuesday of each month, beginning at 2 p.m. and reconvening thereafter at 7 p.m. Should the regular meetings fall on any legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on the next following regular business day without action of any kind by the board unless otherwise canceled. Should the chairman or vice chairman, if the chairman is unable to act, find and declare that weather or other conditions are such that it is hazardous for members to attend regular meetings, the meetings will be continued on the following Tuesday. Such findings shall be communicated to the members, staff, and the press as promptly as possible. All hearings and other matters previously advertised shall be conducted at the continued meetings and no further advertisement is required. Special meetings of the Board of Supervisors may be convened from time to time as determined by the Board of Supervisors in accordance with the applicable provisions of the Code of Virginia and the Code of Nelson County, Virginia. In accordance with The Code of County of Nelson, Virginia, Robert's Rules of Order shall be observed as the rules for conducting business of the Board of Supervisors, and the agenda for all meetings of the Board of Supervisors shall be established by the clerk of the board in consultation with the chairman. Is there any discussion on
I
the meeting dates and times as proposed?
I have no discussion on that. Is this also the resolution attached to appointments?
Yes, it is. I figured we'd cover the logistics of the regular meetings first and then move to the appointments.
Okay.
Does that look good to everyone? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the board appointments, which are displayed on the screen there and are in front of you. I can run down the list if you so desire. We have for the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, there are 2 seats there, potentially to be filled by Jesse Rutherford and Ernie Reed. Director of Emergency Services would be the Board of Supervisors Chair as prescribed by County Code. Emergency Services Coordinator, John Atkins. We have a vacancy in the Piedmont Workforce Network Council that was previously filled by Robert Barton. Clerk to the Nelson County Board of Supervisors would be myself. Deputy Clerk to the Nelson County Board of Supervisors, Amanda B. Spivey. Zoning Administrator, Dylan M. Bishop. Hazardous Materials Coordinator and Thomas Jefferson EMS Council Representative would be John Adkins. The Nelson County EMS Council, Mr. J. David Parr. Thomas Jefferson Community Criminal Justice Board, Daniel L. Rutherford. Nelson County Social Services Board, J. David Parr. And the Nelson County Planning Commission, Ernie Q. Reed.
I'd like to amend this to add Dr. Ligon to the Piedmont Workforce Network Council, if she so wishes. You good with that, Jessica?
That'll be fine.
All right.
Any other?
If there are no amendments, I'll make a motion to approve as I just amended.
So we have a motion to approve Resolution R 2024-01, Nelson County Board of Supervisors Annual Meeting Reorganization. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none. And if we could have a roll call vote,
Ms.
please.
Ligon?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. All right, next we will move on to public comments. We have a sign-in sheet here. If anybody was unable to sign in, we'll address that at the end, see if anybody else wants to speak. Please keep in mind we have 3 minutes per individual, 5 minutes per group. Please state the group you represent, and only one member from the group is allowed to speak. And please honor the 3-minute time limit. I'm not quite as generous as our prior leadership, and so please respect the time and the other people in the room. So first up, we have William Piercy.
Bill was here.
Yep. We'll circle back, see if he comes back. Alex Casillas. State your name and your address, please. 3 minutes.
My name is Alex Casillas. I live on 563 High Beach Lane, Shipton, Virginia. I'm with the Virginia Rural Water Association today. We're working on projects for decentralized wastewater systems, such as septic systems or cluster systems, which are for subdivisions. Basically, the federal government has set aside money to help fix these problems in rural Virginia, whether they have geographical problems and just deteriorating systems. People need help, and septic systems are eventually going to fail, so I'm just trying to get people in contact with their funds for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, USDA Rural Development. I'm just trying to get people in touch with that, and I'm asking if if you know anybody that needs help with their septic system, you can just let me know. I would appreciate it. And yeah, basically that's all. Thank you. I'll have handouts with my information on there as well. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have one question. You prefer they contact you by email or phone?
Either
Right
one.
here.
Yeah, either one. Thank you.
Mr. Reed, you are taking care of time for us, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Got it.
Forgot to ask. All right, next up, we have John Tanney.
Thank you.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is John Tanney. I live 83 Pond Hollow Lane in Mellingsford. Aqua is a water and sewer provider to 445 Nelson County homes in the Stony Creek subdivision. The Stony Creek system is up to date and operating below capacity, requiring minimal, normal preventive maintenance. These customers are facing a substantial increase in water and sewer bills starting in January 24. The rates for 3,000 gallons a month will increase from $25 to $38 for water, 52% increase. $47.90 to $60, a 25% increase for sewer. Additionally, there are proposed tariff increases based on volumetrics. Charges for usage of over 3,000 gallons a month will increase 44% for water and 62% for sewer if the rate increases are approved. Aqua has been an aggressive rate hiker. Since 2015, when Aqua assumed control of our water, rates have risen 90% for water and 36% for sewer. Based on Aqua's history, we anticipate future rate increase applications every 2 to 3 years. Several members of our community have been meeting over the past few weeks to determine what can be done to stop the rate increase and how to best proceed. We have submitted our complaint to the SCC. The application is noted in attachment 1 in the packet. The Aqua increase is statewide, and the SCC has received numerous comments from other communities. The county boards of Boda and Caroline, in solidarity with their residents, have engaged legal counsel to fight this increase for their county attorneys to represent these customers as respondents. The citizens of Nelson County affected by this unjustified increase would be humbled and appreciative if this board follows the lead of their counterparts in Boda and Caroline counties. As our submission to the SCC indicates, we believe the rate increase is unjustified for 2 reasons. First, the increase is excessive. Virginia law calls for a gradual increase over time. The increase in January bill will be sudden, not gradual. Second, we do not believe that Aqua has provided sufficient justification for the increase. Those inclined to look through Aqua's voluminous application on the SCC website will notice that the utility supports the rate increase in large part on prospective infrastructure improvements to water and sewer systems in other communities across the state. We do not believe Nelson County customers should have to pay for the proposed costs of other counties. These are capital, not operating costs. Rather than invest in these systems over time, Aqua has allowed them to deteriorate as many of its customers, particularly those in Lake Monticello area, claim. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next we have William Mays, speaking on behalf of Nelson County Farm Bureau.
I'm William Mays, from Roseville, Virginia, President of the Nelson County Farm Bureau Board of Directors. Came today to address some confusion and kind of clear up some confusion that happened in the last several weeks over land use in Nelson County. My phone has been pretty busy, and several of our board members have indicated that they had a lot of phone calls over it, and it was a misunderstanding. Simply something taken out of context in the previous board meeting when David asked the question. I want you to know as a board, I value the working relationship we have, and it's the most important thing that we have to go on to work toward positive outcomes for agriculture in Nelson County. I value that relationship more than anything else. The ability to sit down and have good dialogue over issues that affect agriculture and forestry in this county is the most important thing. And so to that end, I would like to congratulate the board on working toward fiscal responsibility over the past decades to put us in a position to do capital improvements that don't cost Nelson County citizens an arm and a leg. I would like to commend you on that. Whereas, saying that, I would also like to say that we need capital improvements, and it's part of governance. But we also need to be fiscally responsible and live within our means. Nelson County, as agriculture and forestry represent a big part of Nelson County's economy. And it represent a lot of farm families who depend upon that relationship with the board to be able to continue to do what we do. I would say that going forward, myself and my board will continue to work toward and strive toward a good working relationship with this board, and to come to address situations as they come up with honesty, integrity, openness, and a willingness to preserve the agricultural way of life in this county. Thank you for your time, and all the best in 2024.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Elwood Waterfield III.
You said my name, so I don't have to say it again. You're definitely not gonna like what I gotta say, because there is a culture of corruption and cover-ups in this county. I have not been able to get a meeting with the sheriff or the Commonwealth's attorney in over 6 years. But the new sheriff assured me that I would be safe in talking to him today and not be arrested. I'm homeless because the sheriff's department don't investigate crimes. Very seldom ever show up. This is prior to Mr. Embry taking office. And a FOIA request, the words ethics, integrity, and trustworthiness should never be used when we're talking about the Nelson County administration. The cover-ups in this county. I don't even know where to begin. Like I say, I lived on my home for 21 years. Knock on the door, you got 3 hours, vacate the premises. I've then lost my train of thought. I'm so angry what you people have done to me for standing up against corruption. The Miss Ligon should be made the chairman of the board. Being Mr. Barton is old. I don't want to be the chairman. He was not cognizant, Mr. Barton, for a long time. And the East District and the South District are the nastiest, filthiest places in this county. And nobody has done more in this county to clean this county up than I have. It speaks volumes of the character of this board. Keep Nelson beautiful. Why in God's name would anybody get rid of an organization called Keep Anything Beautiful? But y'all did that because I applied 5 times for that board, never ever considered any of my applications. As soon as I said the word litigation at the Board of Supervisors meeting, oh, by a 3-2 vote, we put you on that board. And then guess what they do? The very first meeting, oh, the board don't exist no more. No such thing. Mr. Rutherford and Ms. Ligon, if you've traveled the East and South District, you know what I'm saying is the gospel truth. And if you know anything about anybody cleaning up anything in this county, you know nobody's done more than I have. Nobody. Thank you. You have a good day. Oh, I filed a slap motion, an anti-slap motion. All of you should already be gone. Every mandated reporter of civil rights abuse should be in jail in this county. Thank you.
All right, is Mr. Piercy back in the room? If not, does anyone else care to speak? All right, we will close the public comment, excuse me. All right, next we will move on to the consent agenda. Unless anyone needs to pull out either of these 2 resolutions separately, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Just one housekeeping question. I noticed that some of these were in July. Was that just a oversight, or we just got caught up? Okay. Then will we be caught up with August and September, hopefully here soon? Okay. All right, well, we encourage that as a board as best we can. Let us know how we can help you. If there's no other discussion, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Amanda?
Ms. Ligon?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Farmer?
Yes. Thank you. All right, next we will move on to presentations. First up, we'll have the VDOT report. Mr. Brown, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Parker. I don't have a whole lot to report on today. We're still working on the Glendale Hollow structure replacement. We've been slow in getting that open, but we're back working on it, and I hope that roadway will be completely open and the new structure finished here hopefully this week. I don't know how this rain's going to set us back, but we're working on that. We have had some winter operations going on for the last week. We did have right much activity up on the mountain this past weekend. I had some ice up there, a little sleet, a little snow, a little bit of everything. But other than that, everything is moving along pretty good. And I really don't, we are still trying to, do some of our normal routine maintenance activities. I see a lot of brush cutting going on some of the highways throughout the county. We are working to still, as we were riding down the road today, we still have some spots of holding water on roadway shoulders. We're still cutting shoulders and doing that good old fashioned maintenance work. So that's about all I have to report to you today.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Brown?
We talked about whippoorwill, so we'll schedule a date on that.
Yes, we'll schedule a date and meet up on what
Yep.
and meet with.
And then, is there a chance we could get you to come to maybe the Livingston Village Association meeting?
Sure.
We want to talk about some signs we're going to put up and some practical. I'll send you some of the preliminaries on it. The right of way, we've been talking about this for the last year,
Yeah.
and we've now finally
Is
found
this
one.
the gateway sign?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll send you some info on that.
Just let me know.
All right.
All right.
I don't have anything specific with particular roads and such, but I did just want to make note that the county administrator and I have had some discussion about going forward on the procedure for looking into reducing the speed limit and restricting through truck traffic along 151 in the
Okay.
Rockfish Valley. So just wanted to let you know that it's on our radar screen. We're looking into it, and just wanted to let you know that we'll have to get some clarification on exactly what those procedures are. Ms. McGarry will be taking care of that, but my role is to try to move this thing through and see if we can get those things implemented.
Certainly. And Kenny, you still have that link for the truck restrictions that we sent you a while back?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. But I do believe the board can, in terms of reducing the speed limit, you can request today that they conduct a speed study, which I believe would be the first step in authorizing any speed reductions along that route.
Does that have to be a motion or just a consensus?
It does not have to be a motion. If you make this request to me as part of our monthly operation, we can certainly do it like we have all other requests. It's your pleasure, though.
Okay.
Jessica has a question.
May I also add another area for a speed study? Coming out of Livingston towards Colleen, where it turns from 45 to 60, extending the 45 to the high school. So from the light going,
Oh, okay.
well, obviously both sides, but from high school coming into Livingston. It's a bit dangerous getting on 29, and we have a new business across the road from Vito's, and a lot of people are making a U-turn off of North 29 onto South 29, and that is impressive.
We've had some discussions in prior meetings about just that median specifically and how you make those U-turns and how that, because it's one, of course, it's the speed context, but two, it's a very limited area
Yes.
for you to make a U-turn. I'm interested more so in seeing what we could do about that intersection, see if there's any improvements. I don't even think you can put a turn lane in because it's so narrow. It's like nothing. Like if you have,
Build a new one.
if let's say is it something that you only make a turn coming north, and it'd be good to look at that intersection as well.
What intersection is that?
Between Blue Moon and Vito's.
Yeah, when you're leaving Vito's
Yeah.
to head north,
It's pretty serious.
that's a tight intersection.
Yeah, and if there is going to be more commerce at that building, at some point, last thing you want, if you got someone with an extended bed truck in a dually, hey, you're sticking out in 29,
Yeah.
a couple feet. So,
Well, Mike, that is a bad one.
yeah,
The next intersection down, headed south, across from the Cove, where people do a lot of U-turns and get
Get back to
back
feed
on
and see.
north.
right,
Yes.
right.
First one.
Freshwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stevens.
Well,
Nah, it's Stevens.
between,
Stevens.
between Vito's and Freshwater
Right
Cove,
at
that one
Outback.
right there.
Yeah,
Where
it's across
people
from the Cove, isn't it? Yeah.
There's one right at the Cove.
Oh, and
Yeah.
one
There's
right
one
across
Outback,
from the
yeah.
Outback Brewery.
Yes.
I think we just need to look at all those intersections and come up with some kind of context of what's a safer way.
I'm sure there's great answers, but I think reducing speed's gonna be helpful.
Yeah, yeah,
Ideally, we like access management,
yeah,
and probably some of them should be closed.
yep.
But and I did want to, one more thing. Then at the high school,
Yep.
I think I sent Ken an email about
The speed.
we had some concerns with the traffic and the school buses trying to get out, getting in and out of school, during the times when school's taking in and letting out. We had a request to study that, to look at that. We did put a portable camera down there so we could see what was going on. And I hope our traffic engineers will, I don't know what the recommendations will be. But obviously the problem is when the traffic signal, when the cue from the traffic signal in Livingston, when that traffic collects and the light and the signal turns green, all that traffic comes down, and it creates a difficulty for the school bus traffic to cross southbound lane. So we put a traffic camera in there, we want to see, try to just see what's going on. So hopefully we'll get some good information from that and come up with some recommendations that will help that situation.
Anything else?
Thank you.
So I'm pretty sure, I was on Campbell's Mountain the other day, didn't go all the way up. That's done the whole way, right?
Yes.
You have a sign there that says gravel road turns to gravel 2 miles or whatever at the bottom. Yeah,
Okay, well, thank you.
recycle that somewhere else, I guess. That's all I have. Oh, across from Saunders Brothers on 56, I noticed some culvert work going on. Is that any VDOT work, or is that's always a standing water problem right there at their entrance? Is that something they're working on themselves, or is that something that VDOT's
I am not sure.
involved in?
I'm not sure, David.
Okay, I was just curious if you knew anything about that. Hopefully it'll help with that drainage issue. All right, anybody have anything else? Thank you, sir. Be safe. Follow water in the road.
Mr. Chairman, could I bring up the motion for the speed study?
Oh.
Yes.
On that, I can wait until the end of the meeting, or we can do it now.
Let's just
I
do
say
it
we do
now.
it now.
Let's get over with.
Okay, well then I'd like to move that we do the required speed study on Route 151, the Rockfish Valley, for the intention of a speed reduction to 45 along that corridor.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Is that what you need?
Do you just want a consensus? I mean, you could just say it in here.
What other methods, Mr.
In terms of boundary limits, county line on Afton to the north, and,
Beach Grove?
yep, sounds good.
Since it was a motion, someone needs to
I think,
second
yeah,
it.
we need a
I'll
second.
that.
All right, we'll just do a vote by acclamation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Since
Have
that
at it.
was really limiting, I guess, do we need to do one for 29?
Do you want to do one for
Or
29,
can
or
we
did you
just
want to
say,
do this?
would you like to do it?
I'm fine with us just generally saying, can you
Okay.
go ahead and just do it and check it out? There we go.
Thank
There's your
you.
consensus.
Thank you, sir.
But I will say the 151 probably needed to be properly done because of the nature of the road, so makes sense to me.
All right, moving on. Next, we have the Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water Conservation District Programs Update. Afternoon, welcome.
Thank you. Let's see. I think I've met most of you. My name is Ann Coates, and I'm the Executive Director for the Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water Conservation District, and I have Luke Longenecker with me as well. He's the Director of our Programs for Agriculture. One of our other employees who runs our education program was sick today, so she's not going to be here. So I'll do my best to try to cover her part. I just wanted to start by kind of giving you guys an overview of districts. Some of you may know what districts are about. We're nationwide, and I'll kind of go over a little bit of that. If you've already read your slides, then I probably will just be boring you, because I think most everything I'm going to say I included in the slide just so you can have it for reference. I'll give a little overview of the Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water Conservation District. Luke's going to give a 5 or 6 minute presentation on the agriculture program and some updates. There have been some significant changes there in terms of funding, and he'll also go over our septic program. I'll do my best to go through a little bit of the education and the residential program and talk just a few minutes about looking forward. We're often confused with a nonprofit, a 501c3, which we are not. We're actually a government agency, just like you all. We were formed in the 1930s out of the Dust Bowl, and one of the primary differences with a conservation district versus a nonprofit, for instance, or some other government agencies is we have elected local directors. They're made up of local landowners. You actually have to own land, and we make local decisions on how to use often funding that comes from the federal or the state. So we have local decision makers made up of people that are local, helping to decide where, not taxpayer dollars from our local, we don't collect taxes, but we bring in money from outside sources, which tend to be taxes, but they're usually state and federal. So our local directors can help make decisions on where that funding goes. There's 3,000 in the United States, there's 47 in Virginia, so we're not unique. Not all of the land, even in Virginia, is covered by a district. So we're fortunate here in Nelson County, the entire county is covered, which means we're eligible for 100% of the funding that's available. There's a National Association of Conservation Districts that we're a partner with, as well as the state. They do a lot of legislative lobbying. They go after funding for us. They help to secure interests that the community has. And so we do have a process for filtering that information up. So if there's any items in particular, like invasive plants, fountain grass, for instance, we can help filter that information up the ladder to try to get some changes at a legislative level. We are a political subdivision of the state, and that's our code. And again, we have an elected board of directors. Mark Campbell and David Collins are our 2 electeds for Nelson County. We are geographically the 2nd largest district in the state. Culpeper, just to the north of us, is the largest. We also have the largest staff in the state, so we're doing quite a bit of work, and we're very proud of our team, and we've got a really very supportive board of directors to help us take us in that direction. So again, I wanted to hand off to Luke Longenecker. His presentation is going to be a little bit longer here, about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I'll wrap up. Thanks.
Good afternoon. As Ann said, my name is Luke Longenecker. I manage the ag and septic programs for the district. And it's been a while since I've been here and a lot has changed. So I'm going to try to hit what has changed and how that affects landowners, farmers, and just residents in our community. I'm going to cover the ag and the septic program, and then Ann will wrap up with some just insights on education and kind of looking forward where we think funding is going and what will be available moving forward. So what I do, what my team does, is we work one-on-one primarily with farmers and landowners in Nelson County and the 3 other counties within our district to get to know them, their operation, what's working, what's not working, and try to come up with technical resources, grant funds. We educate them a lot on best practice, and we just try to help them improve their herd, their land management, their, just anything that we can assist them with. And we're fortunate to be in a position where we have record funding at the state level to provide significant cost of dollars to these farmers to do a variety of conservation programs that are benefiting, the land, our water quality, but also benefiting the farm themselves with, improved efficiency, improved management. Herd health is a big thing we're talking about with farmers as far as supplying clean water, get them out of these muddy areas, get them high and dry on land. Talking to a vet, I'm sure you can respect that. And so just the programs have adapted so much, and it used to be, it was a one-size-fits-all, and with this record funding, there's just so much more flexibility to just do one part of the farm, a 15-acre field, do half the farm, do the whole farm, whatever works for each individual farmer. So it's a great time to update you guys, farmers within the community, of just what's available and how it can improve their bottom line, their efficiency, et cetera. And I do want to highlight that all of these programs are voluntary. Farmers call us for assistance. We are non-regulatory, and we do not want to be regulatory. And we are just here to help and answer questions and provide assistance in whatever way we can. And over the years of building this program, we've really become a resource for farmers, and hopefully that can continue well into the future. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing in the community and kind of highlight some of our most common practices we're putting on the ground. I also just wanted to take a look back of where we've come from. And we really started tracking our metrics in 1998. That's kind of our best data for what we've done within Nelson County and the 3 other counties within our area. And essentially, we've done a lot. And I do want to highlight this as showing almost a 25-year span. But the bulk of this money has been put on the ground the last 5 to 6 years because there's a big push from the state of Virginia and the General Assembly to do a lot of voluntary BMPs and make sure that the money is available for these best management practices. So I think it just highlights, the money coming into the community, which is an economic boost in a lot of ways to farmers, to contractors, to well drillers, to the Livingston Farm Supply, to the Colleen Feed and Seed, to the hardware store in Nelson, and beyond. Gravel, we're hauling gravel, we're pouring concrete. It's helping in so many ways, both the beauty of our land, the economics of farming, and just the overall land value of these programs. So we've done a lot in kind of highlighting the accomplishments we've done on the left. Also, I do want to highlight, we are providing funding, but farmers and landowners are putting forth their money as well because they believe in these programs. And the second bullet down is over $1 million in landowner contribution for these conservation efforts, which is significant. So what are we doing with this money? We're doing a variety of things. We work primarily with livestock and cropland producers to further their education, but also give them resources to improve their overall operation. We also do some work with vineyards and orchards. We're getting more into that as far as what's available for them. So like I said, what's available is greatly expanded. There's a lot more flexibility in how we put these projects on the ground. Highlighted here is just we work a lot with livestock producers, really trying to make them, give them the resource to graze in a more efficient way, providing them, with a clean water supply, getting them out of these wet areas, these muddy areas that, is not necessarily good for water quality, but it's not really good for them as well as far as, the pathogens they're exposed to, the bacteria in these muddy areas, the foot problems they have going down to these creeks to get water, keep them high and dry, give them spring water, well water. It's just a lot of benefits, both for the land, the water, but also that herd itself. I put this in here. We have probably 100 different practices we can put on the ground that's available to landowners and farmers in our area. This is a farm that is on the Nelson-Almar line. Just to give an example of kind of how we work within the community. Got a call from a farmer just kind of stuck of what to do with this spot on their farm that had just been denuded and eroded for probably 20 years. They've lost all their topsoil. They have no stabilization, it's basically just a dead zone on their property. They have a nice pond at the bottom that's pretty much red with sediment year-round. And so our organization was able to come in there, provide funding, technical assistance. We're fortunate to have a great staff of certified technical staff that can come up with solutions to problems like this. We have an engineering staff on site to design all these practices. It's the same picture over a 4-year period. And so we did shaping, grading, reseeding both grasses and trees. And now we've improved water quality, but we've also given them a fish population to recreate on the pond. They can swim in that pond again. So just a lot of benefits just overall with the programs we're doing. And I'll move quick because I want to be cognizant of time, but like I said, a variety of practices, everything from cover crops to nutrient management plans to animal waste facilities for some of our larger operations. So kind of a geographic description of where we're doing work. If you look at the ledge, I know it's small on the screen, but the purple dots or pinkish dots are completed ag projects since 1998. Anything in that aqua color is a project under construction for this fiscal year. And it kind of makes sense if you would overlay a land use data map on there. You think about where our ag land is in the county. You're looking at Tyro, Piney River, Roseland, down to Arrington, the 29 corridor, Fauber, some ag land scattered about. That kind of gives you an overlay of where we're working. I'll highlight that we've done over 585 BMPs since 1998, with the bulk of that being in the last 5 or 6 years. And we currently have 36 projects under construction for ag, totaling almost $1.3 million. I'll touch on the sector here as well in a few slides. This is a breakdown just of those 36, highlighting 19 as kind of our structural practices. We're doing some buildings for animal waste, for some chemical handling facilities, for some of our orchards. We're also doing some agronomic practices as well. So I'll highlight the Tide River specific Team DL. In the 2010, long story short, there was a study done that showed elevated levels of fecal coliform and E. coli within the Tide River watershed. We were able to work with DEQ to get them to provide a stable funding source for not only ag project, but for septic BMPs as well, and that is repairs, replacements, connection to public sewer. On these typically older houses, we've seen everything from a 50-gallon drum in the backyard to a creek to a straight pipe to just an Orangeburg pipe that's 50 years old and just is disintegrated. So we've been fortunate. We started that in 2013. It's still available. We're on a 3rd round of that grant. We've been able to reapply for that grant every 2 to 3 years for the last almost 10, 12 years. And we've had a lot of success with that program. So kind of hitting the numbers, since that program was in place in 2014 is when we started really getting things going and making these improvements. Over $600,000 with, you factor in the cost share paid to residents, plus the contribution from the landowner themselves. And we're doing a variety of things. We kind of just hit the top 5 there, 5 or 6 on the left. Over 53 full replacements of failed drain fields, failed distribution boxes. And we're working, everyone qualifies for this program, but there's been just a lot of good situations where we were able to help a very low income family and pay up to 80 or 90% of the total cost to come in to fix their system. And these systems aren't cheap. I mean, we used to do a repair for $6,000, now it's like $10,000 to $12,000. You do an alternative system, you're looking at $30,000 to $40,000. People that can't make ends meet, can't make it month to month, and we're able to come in and help pay for the bulk of the project. It's been a game changer for a lot of residents within our county. That's all I have. We'll take some questions at the end if you have any, and I'll pass it to the wrap up.
So just to touch on, we also, in addition to the ag program, and Luke mentioned the $2.9 million that we have been able to provide since 1998. Right now, our cost share allocation from the state is $5.5 million for this year. So the more we can get landowners in Nelson County to participate, the more of that funding they would be eligible for, because that funding is for our entire district. We're being told now, or being asked now, if we could go to 10 million, if we could absorb and deliver 10 million. We're not sure that's going to come, or we're going to be able to handle that because of the staff, the amount of time it takes for us to get. But the big piece of it, of course, is getting the word out there that we have the funding. As Luke mentioned, there is a lot of flexibility. So that's such a big portion of our program, but I hate to overshadow some of the other great things we do. So I did want to touch on the education program a little bit and the residential program. So while ag is the mainstay, we do work with educators here in the community, both teachers and nonprofits, school groups, et cetera, to do the actual kind of hands-on watershed education programs. And then for the residential program, we have available to us on a statewide level $4 million a year to deliver conservation for residential landowners. And that can include rain gardens around your house. So if you've got like an erosion issue right near your foundation of your house, you might be eligible for a rain garden or a meadow. We can do up to 1 acre of conservation landscaping, which it's called. So if you wanted to plant native wildflowers, you know, if there's an erosion or some kind of, we don't do big erosion projects. We often get calls about VDOT problems, but we're just looking at kind of residential situations. But that's a really important piece of our programs as well. It's certainly not as significant as the ag program in terms of dollars, but it certainly has a broad reach. The education, we provide, you know, of course, field trips, scholarships. There's a picture of Zoe Evans, who received a scholarship from us in Nelson County last year. We've got Youth Conservation Camp, Youth Conservation Leadership Institute, which goes, I think, to Virginia Tech, and then the Envirothon competition as well. We also have resources for our teachers. We've got everything from what's called like an Enviroscape, things that we can actually, we've got kits that we can take to the teachers so that they don't have to develop and keep up with the materials on their own. We can bring all the resources and everything to them directly. So these are just some examples of some of the schools that have participated. We can also loan the equipment out as well. The residential program, as I mentioned earlier, is to help treat and control stormwater runoff. And again, we're looking at kind of small scale, not large, you know, projects necessarily. This is just around your residence. And then the types of practices, it would include a dry well. I mean, you could do dry wells. A lot of people in Virginia Beach do impervious driveways, so you can get permeable pavers put in your driveway and have that covered. And I think right now that's allowing up to like $30,000 or $40,000. So it's a significant amount of funding, and that cost share tends to run about 80%. 80 for the program and 20% for the landowner. It kind of varies a little bit. But anyway, so looking forward, I do want to be cognizant of your time. We're certainly happy to answer questions later or at another time if you'd like more detail. Certainly if you want to go out on a site visit, we're happy to, you know, entertain that as well. Currently we're receiving over $200 million statewide. That's, again, that funding is directly for farmers. That's not to cover our staff time. So the funding that you all provide and Albemarle provides, Nelson, Flavanna, of course, Louisa, and the city of Charlottesville provide helps to pay for our staff, and then that helps us to bring those large dollars out to the community. So we wanted to thank you for your continued support, and we're happy to answer any questions if you've got any.
Question for Luke.
All right.
Septic related. I just saw you did 12 septic projects for 35 grand. How'd you do it? That's a miracle.
So that mixes in some low-cost projects like some pump outs,
Replacing.
small repairs,
I
like
see,
distribution box. It wouldn't be 12.
I was gonna say, I was sitting
I
there.
wish we could do it.
The contractor in me was
Yes.
like, wow, I want to know who
wish we
you're
could,
using
yeah.
It
because,
could even just be like a lid cover.
sure.
You know.
So just replacing a D-box or something of that
Yeah,
nature.
something small.
And you know, the septic conversation is an important one in this community because one unique attribute that we have is we require 100% reserve drain fields. And for the board that doesn't understand that, that basically means there's 100% reserve in the event the first portion fails, essentially, that you can replace it. It's a very important practice because a lot of counties, I think, are common 50% or 75% reserve. And if you have a situation where it's a 3-bedroom septic system, but you got 8 people living in one house, well, that reserve is going to become very important because it also takes into some consideration of expansion in the event that there's a lot of failures. And in today's septic system, it's designed to only last 30 years, unfortunately. I mean, you know, it's not a matter of question of when your drain field fails, it's when. You know, if, it's when. And you know, we see that attribute across this state, of course, but especially Nelson County. One thing that I did want to know was, if there is a home that has access to county sewer but they have it currently, their own private septic system, 3-line, the tank and everything. Would you all pay to help them hook up potentially to the county system? Have you done that?
Yes, we can connect to the county sewer. A lot of people are already connected, but
Yeah.
if there's we can't just come in and replace it just because.
No,
If there's
no.
a problem or a failed
Yeah.
system, we have funds to connect.
That you'll help them out. So
Yep.
that there's some instances in Schuyler where some people are kind of holding out. They got county water but don't want to hook up to the sewer side yet. That could be a good thing. Fairly certain that discharge is going straight into the Rockfish. Crawdad's a really big dump out down by the dam.
In the tie watershed.
Yeah, so we've had, right now, our septic funding is geographic based on watershed. So we historically had one for
Rockfish.
the Rockfish in the tie. Rockfish ended probably 2018.
Oh, wow.
We've been in the tie, working since 2013 in the tie. We still have good funding there.
Is that going to change?
We've potentially, and there's some other funding sources coming through potentially, what this gentleman mentioned as well. Ours is watershed specific currently.
I see.
We had a
Because of the
district
E.
wide
coli.
at one point, and that money went very quickly. We're always exploring new opportunities to make sure everyone has that opportunity.
Okay.
At one point, DEQ said that when they closed out one of their TMDLs, that was it. Now, they have since revisited that and said, because actually in Rockfish, I'd say we get continued demand for that area. DEQ is now saying they will allow those to come back into the cycle.
Right.
For funding, where historically they had said, we were done, that like they'd finished that project and then they moved on to the tie. But they're now, I don't know when they'll reinvigorate it, but at least it's allowed to be brought forward.
Sure.
So if there's enough demand, and you all are hearing it too, we can certainly put together a letter, and we do track how many requests we get for each watershed.
Gotcha.
We have a huge septic problem in Shipman, town of Shipman, but I guess I'm questioning, who do I tell residents to talk to, you or this lovely man?
Everyone.
Everyone, talk to everyone, okay.
Yeah.
Probably both, but if they're in the tie watershed, certainly it would be straight to us. And that map that we had up, there's an outline. A lot of people don't know whether they're in the tie or not.
Yeah.
But if they call us, we have a little map, we can enter it into their address and we can tell them.
The entire town shouldn't be covered under that. watershed.
Yeah. We have a lot of houses on shared septics that are failing.
There's one right on the tracks.
Yeah, there's one place where 3 different houses are on one.
Oh, the post office.
What's the timing on the next one?
We currently have funding, and we're going to apply for an extension probably this summer.
Okay.
So if there's interest in the
All right, excellent.
And that's complicated though.
That is a very
Because of the
complicated.
railroad.
Yeah. Well, it would have to be an engineered septic.
It's $100,000.
A lot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Hopefully y'all will catch up.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it. All right, next we are moving on to new and unfinished business. We have, first up, interest-free loan request from the Green Rescue Squad.
I'll just briefly introduce this item. We do have Chief Sheets here as well. This is a request for funding from the interest-free loan fund that the county established some time ago to provide interest-free funding for our EMS, rescue, and fire agencies. So this is a request from Wintergreen Rescue Squad in the amount of $100,000 to help purchase a 2022 Ford F-450 ambulance. These requests typically come from the agencies. They go to the Emergency Services Council, who typically, if they approve them, then they get sent to the board for final approval. So I will pass this on to Chief Sheets, who can speak to their request as well.
Thank you all. I think this is pretty straightforward, procedural, I believe anyway. But for your knowledge, on our side of the grant program, we consider these loans to be callable notes. So if an agency has some sort of a crisis while we owe this $100,000, what typically would happen is the leaders of the agencies come back together and say, hey, does anybody have the ability to make an extra payment this month? This other agency needs a little more. And we just kind of keep putting back in. Over the 20 years that I've seen the program work, I've never seen it not work. makes sense. So with this $100,000, if it's approved, and then a year from now, somebody needs it more than we would do our part. The ambulance is actually well over 200,000. This is more or less assisting us with cash flow, and helping us get back to a safer buffer.
And this was approved by council, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions for Curtis?
So this is a 2022 Ford F-450, so you already have this locked in?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
It's actually in the garage, like we have it already. Yeah.
great, okay.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution R 2024-04, approval of interest-free loan request for Wintergreen Rescue Squad.
I'll move that we approve Resolution R 2024-04, Nelson County Board of Supervisors approving an interest-free loan request for the Wintergreen Rescue Squad.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Amanda?
Ms. Ligon?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes. Very good. Thank you.
And just for the board's information, prior to this approval, the emergency services interest-free loan account had a balance of $548,480.
All right, next up, we have Nelson EMS proposed fiscal year 25 shift schedule change.
This item has come up just in conversation between myself, Chief Sheets, and also John Atkins, our Emergency Services Director, just regarding the issues that we are having in retaining and attracting specifically advanced life support and paramedic EMS staff. I guess I should start out for Ms. Ligon's benefit. You may or may not know that in addition to our volunteer rescue squads, we have the county contracts with Wintergreen Fire and Rescue to provide paid EMS services, 2 crews of 24/7 coverage within the county. So the gist of the issue is we would like to move to a new shift schedule that would provide 24 hours on and 72 off. And this is because everyone around us, Augusta, Amherst, Buckingham, and Fluvanna, have gone to this schedule, and we are competing with EMTs and paramedics with those agencies. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Sheets. He can more eloquently describe the issues at hand, but that is the impetus for this topic of conversation today.
Thanks again for the intro. Let me start by saying, in some respect, I apologize for being here out of a budget cycle. Like, that's never a goal for me. I am glad that we're not talking today about calls that are being dropped or complaints from other jurisdictions around us about having to come into Nelson County too often to handle our workload. We're not there yet, but we're running our system in a pretty expensive way right now, having to pay a lot of overtime and shift differentials to fill holes in our schedule that wouldn't normally be there. As Ms. McGarry mentioned, we are the contract EMS provider for the County of Nelson. That's an arrangement we've had since 2006. So we have a lot of data to look at. One of the things that changed about 3 years ago was when Buckingham County created their Department of Emergency Services. They chose a schedule model that was 24 hours on, 72 off, which was very, at that time, kind of unconventional. And I, for one, thought it would never last. It couldn't be sustained, too expensive. And it stuck around. And then more and more people started to pile on that schedule model. And we kind of saw this problem coming, and we started to plan for it 3 years ago. And I thought we would get out of its way, but the problem came faster than I thought. So for most of us in this room, our work schedule is 2,080 hours in a year. The traditional firefighter EMT, using the old schedule, had to work 2,920 hours a year. As the market got more and more competitive, in addition to paying more, people started reducing the number of work hours that had to be done. I mean, it's a work-life balance. So we started 3 years ago adding this thing we call skip shifts, which allows our employees to just pick shifts that they don't want to work on that month's schedule, and that doesn't go against their vacation time. It's just we build it into the model. So we would need to have 30 skip shifts in a year to be competitive with Amherst or Buckingham or Augusta. So we've made it to 12. We were hoping that within 3 or 4 years we would be at 30 and we would just flip the schedule. The problem is within the last year, we've lost half of our staff to these competing systems around us. And we've been advertising for months and we don't have a single qualified applicant at the paramedic level. So the last 3 hires that we made for the NIMS group are all relatively new EMTs, which we can handle one of those on each of our shifts, but if we have more than one new EMT, that's problematic because our transport times are lengthy and our patient acuity tends to be high. And so we're really setting ourselves up for a bad patient experience if we don't have enough paramedics in our system. So what we're asking, hoping that we can do, is conceptually agree that we'll need to, July 1, be using the 24/7/2 schedule to be competitive with all the other municipalities around us. And we can advertise that now in hopes that we can start to get some applicants in our pipeline that we can evaluate and hire with the caveat, we're not on 24/7/2 yet, but we're switching to that in July. It's kind of a Hail Mary, but that's the request. Questions?
It is.
Questions?
It has definitely been, of course, over the history of, I know at least for Mr. Reed and I being on this board, we were we unfortunately saw the end of the Nelson EMS as it related to the volunteer side of that. And, of course, coverage has been an important factor for all of us, especially in the rural parts such as Howardsville or Schuyler or Gladstone and Norwood area where we get that proximity. Is there any interest in utilizing the Fauber rescue, or are we still staying central in the Livingston facility?
So we look at where the calls are coming from.
Yeah.
And it really, our data would indicate that it makes the most sense to keep both those trucks central.
Gotcha.
The caveat there would be Wintergreen Rescue Squad proper, that Nelly's Ford station, really acts as a third county ambulance. It's the one that goes out when the 2 over here are not available.
Sure.
If that arrangement ever, for whatever reason, evaporated, then you would clearly have to decentralize your 2 trucks and put one on one side of the county and one on the other.
Do we have I can't remember what the acronym is, the mutual agreement with Albemarle?
We do.
We do?
Yeah, we do. The code requires us to have a mutual aid agreement in place with all the localities around us, and we have to revisit that every 2 years.
Gotcha.
And we do have those.
Gotcha. Have we had any instances, maybe Mr. Atkins can chime in, where Albemarle's been able to assist in that side, the northern side?
Western Albemarle Rescue Squad
Yeah.
comes in occasionally on the North 151 zone, and every once in a while we might do a medic intercept where we have a basic truck that's
Gotcha.
going north out of Livingston that picks a medic off of a Charlottesville truck.
Gotcha. Okay.
We also use Augusta a little bit in the Afton area. Wingsboro First Aid Crew helps us out as well. Buckingham handles an occasional call, and Amherst Public Safety will float up every
Got it.
once in a while. And we're in those spaces too.
Of course.
Yeah.
A lot of shared communities.
Yes.
So to be considered fully staffed on this new schedule, how many more?
So right now we have 3 shifts of 4 people. This schedule adds a 4th shift. So it actually affects your payroll, you would think, by 33%. It's actually a little higher than that because one of those 4 people has to be a supervisor. So you're really adding a lieutenant and 3 providers. this is a problem that's going to affect Wintergreen Fire and Rescue as well, in case you're wondering why just Nelson. The EMS only crews are the ones that are transitioning the fastest to 24/72 because of call volume and issues related to patient safety, and errors are made in medication when people are fatigued. But Wintergreen Fire and Rescue has a high enough percentage of their work volume in ambulances versus fire trucks that we know we're going to have to switch to this schedule as well. Candidly, we cannot afford to do that all at once, so we're going to be 2 years behind the county if we make this change. And what that may mean is some of our providers from one property may ask to transfer out to NIMS during that period of transition to take advantage of the better schedule, and then hopefully we come back. That's one of the advantages to having this arrangement that we have, is that answering the calls of Wintergreen, if I only had my 22 employees, would be much more challenging if I didn't have the full 34 batch. And honestly, if you guys were trying to cover your 3,000 calls with just your 12 employees, that would be virtually impossible. So we do both benefit from each other a little bit in that regard.
How many, as just out of curiosity, for the ALS, how many continued education hours are required?
If you're a nationally registered paramedic, it's roughly 100 every cycle, which is about the same it took to become an EMT in the first place.
Wow.
It's a crazy amount of training. That's an interesting question, and I'm glad you brought that up because I meant to mention this. Like in your all's NIMS budget, the line item for training, I think, is around 2,500 or 3,000. It's a very low number, and one of the reasons why it's so low is because we've been able to dovetail in. We have to do a lot of CE for Wintergreen anyway, and so you could do CE classes for 20 people or 10 people for relatively the same cost. So the county's been a benefactor of that a little bit. But now that we're hiring EMTs for NIMS, they want to become paramedics. You don't want to hire somebody who doesn't ever want to train up. That would be the wrong employee to have. So we already have one EMT who's requested tuition for the UVA program coming up. Well, tuition's $10,000. So that's going to have to be built into your budget. You're saving $8,000 in the pay per year, but you're gonna have to pay it in the training cost. And the problem is it disrupts your schedule. Over time, you'd be far better off to hire paramedics if you could find them. That's overall more efficient in a number of ways.
So, sorry, I was just going to add just some notes here. Budgetarily for FY25, we're talking about a payroll increase of about $281,000 in order to implement this schedule. The current budget for FY24 for our paid EMS program is currently at about $1.4 million. So that would add almost another $300,000. So we'd be close to about 1.7 in that budget.
Do we know how that impacts residual recurring revenue at this time?
So right now, if we're running fewer advanced life support calls, it does impact the revenue that we bring in because we can charge.
You can charge them.
Higher rates for that level of, the higher level of service. So,
Is it typically a break-even scenario? Like, are we lucky if we get 60% of cost? Like, what's the normal?
okay, so right now, our budgeted revenue recovery is $720,000 roughly. So we get about half of the 1.4.
So about 50% of whatever it is we do. Okay.
What percentages of these bills are not paid?
50%.
We have that information. I don't have that right in front of me. There are some accounts receivable always in that situation. We do have a soft billing program where, you know, if people aren't able to pay, then if they get billed a few times and they're not able to pay, or then it does become a write-off. We also have hardship waivers because no one's ever denied transport.
No,
more services.
So I guess, just speaking speculative, without any change in ambulance charges or response, whatever you call it, what do you call that?
The transport rates.
Transport rates.
Mhm.
Of that 300K, obviously the calls will probably be the same amount of volume. It's not like we produce more staff that the input of calls changes necessarily.
Right.
So that any change in,
The input of calls?
what I'm saying is if we increase one more crew, it's not like calls are gonna really change. The number of people who are calling 911 who need transportation.
Right, to offset those costs, I think you're saying.
All I'm saying is like that new 300K is probably not gonna get, the only way it gets offset is by changing that transport rate.
Right, yes, which those have not been changed since 2012, I
Gotcha.
believe.
Do we know it?
So that's something the board could consider in the upcoming budget
budget.
year.
Well, can you come up with some numbers for further discussion?
Oh, certainly,
So
yes.
what our average bill is, and of course, costs have gone up, fuel has gone up. I mean, just simply, what the costs are, and then what our average bill is, too.
Curtis, do you have any?
The average bill per transport?
Yeah,
Well, yes, we can come up with that. I do have the current rates in front of me, but I don't have what an average bill might be. So,
Curtis, can you elaborate maybe a little bit on what neighboring counties do dollar cent wise for transport? Do you know anecdotally?
Well, I'd be speculating, if we haven't increased since 2012, then I'm sure there are other localities around us that have bumped up
Yeah.
more frequently than that. But fortunately, we provide the service and the county provides the bill.
No, I
So I'll
understand
like
that.
to explain it there.
You're not on the accounts
Yeah,
receivable
right.
side.
So what we do, we
Yeah.
work with Judy and others in Candy's office to make sure that we're coding these things, that we're writing, documenting everything that we've done to maximize the billing. But beyond that, that's my.
Gotcha, so that's all, and I think is, Ms. Ligon has indicated, finding out what neighboring localities would probably be a beneficial idea as we go into the budgets, because I imagine that's something we would bring up in the budget if I were
we
to.
can
Why,
definitely provide
just-
you a lot of detail. at that
cost
time.
of goods in my office has gone up at least 200-300% in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I imagine in the human world it's worse. So the fact that we haven't kept up with charging, it can be a problem. We're getting nailed on both ends,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
And so the board kind of understands this as well, insurance companies are normally the payer.
Yeah.
Right, I was gonna add
and
that too,
it's-
that it's mostly insurance companies or Medicare,
Yeah.
Medicaid, they're the primary
Yeah,
payers.
they're the primary people who are,
Yeah, but if we're not asking enough, we're not getting enough.
no.
Right, that's correct,
Yep.
yes.
Does this need to be a motion, or is this, what is the,
We looking for action on this?
today?
I think the action we're looking for is just general commitment to go to the 24/72 schedule so that Chief Sheets can advertise that in hopes of improving recruitment and retention as of July 1, 24.
All right, so whoever makes a motion today is, we're aligning the board for about an increase of 300K, is that what you said earlier? This is
281,000.
281,000.
And while we're on that, what's the 195 listed here? It says
Yeah.
281,000, 86,000 has been budgeted, leaving a deficit of 195. I don't think you had mentioned the 195 yet.
That is correct. And you're right, the 195, it takes into account those skip shifts that are built into the budget that approximate about an $86,000 cost. So it would be a net increase of 195,000,
So
not the
as-
281.
Right, okay. that's
You're
All right, so 195.
That's right.
That's
And-
not palatable.
How confident or comfortable are we with absorbing that from a budget standpoint?
I mean, I feel pretty confident we can cover that cost. It's an important cost to cover. I mean, I think emergency services and ensuring the the safety of the, and welfare of the public is paramount, so.
And neighboring counties are
They're already
squeezing
doing it.
us
They're gonna,
Yes.
they're
into
gonna be taking people.
this.
Yeah,
So
I don't think we have too much of a choice, to
Right.
be honest.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this schedule change. Nelson EMS proposed FY25 shift schedule change as was presented just now.
very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Amanda?
Ms. Ligon?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
I have a question for Candy.
Yes.
Are we considering the transport billing rates now, or we're going to wait until the budget?
That would be up to the board. They can be adjusted anytime during the year.
I think during the budget would be a good time.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I just wanted to make sure that's what.
And when is that?
It's gonna be on, we're gonna talk about
Starting
that.
pretty darn soon.
Yes.
Like in a week.
Yeah, in March.
Real soon.
March.
Yeah.
I heard the chair wants to do it tomorrow.
I think somebody's already working on it probably. All right, we get ready to move on?
Yes.
Next, we have the NCCDF request for support of housing opportunities via fee waivers, R 2024-05.
Okay, Ms. Margaret Claire is here, the Executive Director of Nelson County Community Development Foundation, to speak to her request if necessary. This is something the board has done in the past. I believe it was last done in July of 2020, where you basically just authorize a waiver of the tipping fees for their community housing projects. So they're asking for, yes, waiver of tipping fees at the county transfer station for debris generated by their projects, and allow a 24-month payment period for connection fees to county-operated water and sewer systems on Community Development Foundation-owned property. It also asks that this be reviewed annually at each July meeting of the Board of Supervisors going forward. So, Margaret, anything to add?
I think it,
Yeah, can you come up and shed some light? Thank you. So you want to elaborate a little? And
Oh,
tell us-
sure. So typically, most of the money that we spend is done on, smaller renovations for homeowners, similar to like the one you guys were talking about, the septic system. So in cases where rural development or water cuts, sometimes we work with those groups to renovate homes in Nelson. And in the past years, when George was the executive director, he did more builds. I'm just getting kind of geared up for that. We have an additional $350,000 that are home art funds that we need to be building a multiplex for elderly and or disabled people in the county. Those are kind of like the rules that's mainly to address homelessness. But that is definitely on my docket for the next 24 months. I've got to get it done by then. So, and so connection fees are something that we can reduce or remove those fees. In addition, renovation of our own properties I just bought a house actually in Livingston, going to renovate it and then sell it at an affordable rate to somebody who lives here and works here or works here in Nelson County to try to generate some homeowners here. And that's just going to have a tipping fee cost because it's a small house. We're going to renovate it. It's going to create some garbage. So if I can, like I said, bring the cost of those projects down, we're going to do a renovation in Schuyler on Gold Mine Lane. That's going to also create a kind of a large amount of stuff that's going to go to the transfer station. I'm going to do one of our own houses in Gladstone as well that needs to be renovated. It's probably mostly cosmetic, but there are going to be kitchen cabinets and bathtubs and things like that we're going to be bring into the transfer station. So, when you're nickeling and diming, that's what your budget is. If we can get all the help we can get from the county, all of these properties come back and pay taxes. We pay taxes on our own properties. People rent them for very much lower than the going rate.
Do you have any idea how much that translates into, just an estimate, guesstimate?
I don't, because I really haven't thrown that much stuff away, so I'm trying to kind of quantify that. I just bought the house in November and just got that resident situated where we can go in now and kind of see what we've got to do. So I can come back with those numbers.
Yeah, so you don't have like a budget that accounts for the tipping fees that you've not been paying?
No,
so
I
to
haven't
speak.
paid.
Right.
I haven't paid any tipping fees
Right.
at this point. In my life, in this role, I can try to quantify it. I mean, I'm going to get bids on how much it's going to take. So I have had people tell me it's going to be a couple of dumpsters for this one house, but it
To
just
the
doesn't.
couple
seem
12-yard dumpsters. So typically, it's like something like that's probably about, I'm just speaking anecdotally from flipping a house, it's probably going to be about $500 to $800 to $1,000. Just depends on how heavy it is. If it's like,
Yeah.
if you're throwing block and rock and stuff,
Yeah, it's not a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of.
Do you not use Jeremy Hale at all?
I really haven't done anything. The biggest thing
Yeah.
that we did throw away was a school bus up on a property in Matthews Mill. We just paid for that.
Yeah,
It was a lot.
$500.
I don't remember. I just paid it into the contractor who got rid of it for me. It probably isn't gonna break my bank if you say no, but I would love you to say no.
I'm just going to add, just to remind the board, I think the cost of a ton of trash is $55 per ton.
$55 a ton, yeah. 13, I mean,
What?
yeah, tons
Yeah.
and dumpster is different. Yeah, you could have,
Well, so you're getting the dumpster brought to the house.
It
Yeah, like
just
fill it up.
depends. We may
And you-
use a dump truck, you know
Oh,
what I mean?
okay.
So just we would have an account down there and we just would dump it in whatever it is. So,
I don't think it's that simple. But yeah, I don't know.
Questions, comments?
I mean, I think, it'd probably be good if you came back with a quantifiable number. At least something of that nature, maybe one that a contractor or somebody, whoever you're utilizing. I think that would, the thing is that if doing just a blank one, I mean, you could take a bunch of rock and block and throw it in there and it's a couple grand. It's can be pretty variable.
Yeah. Although, you have said that you're not doing major work,
No.
these are mostly renovations,
Yeah.
mostly fairly low weight stuff, you're not talking about demolitions or anything.
no.
So,
It's just mostly cosmetic.
yeah, it's, arguably, it's a fairly insignificant amount of money in the grand scheme of things, but it does help you in your mission to be able to make your money go farther and to, and it's something that's been in place for a while. I'd be in favor of continuing it and making a motion to pass resolution R 2024-5.
So do we have to quantify the dollars and cents?
No, I don't think you do. Unless
What did we-
you want to.
How much did
but
it
you
cost
could do a
us?
blanket
How much
waiver.
did it cost us last time?
The last time we did it, we didn't even
I
use
don't-
it.
Yeah, I don't.
It was just
Any
an
data on that.
anticipation.
So
I think the
just-
last time, sorry.
I have so many questions.
I'm just gonna put it.
This is so ambiguous.
Ask them.
Well,
What, I mean, I think we've worked as a really good partner with the county over 35 years. I don't think that there's any reason to think that we would take advantage of this. I can definitely, I report to Candy every quarter on the projects that we're doing. So I can try to, when I have those quantity numbers in anticipation of what they're gonna be, I can give them to Candy, so you guys can make sure that I'm not taking advantage of your largesse.
I think we may just need to clarify too, the waivers for what time period?
Yeah.
It was a 24-month period for the connection fees. And then this is to be reviewed annually each July meeting. So would this be in effect through this July, or are you anticipating for next July?
Well, I should have done this in July.
Okay.
And so, you're just not
So-
really quite sure what your projects are gonna be until they come up. So the connection fee would be specifically for the ARP project that we're doing, which we haven't decided 100% on patients.
So through July would be the request on
Yeah, and then we
on
can
the
renew
tipping
it,
fee
and then we'll
waiver.
see. There's gonna be these two major projects, plus the beginning of the ARP project, which again, according to her report, we know what's going on.
For a frame of reference, our budgeted number for tipping fees is about $216,000. That's what we bring in for a full fiscal year from all of the commercial dumpers.
Comments?
I think if there was anything, if I was interested in any motion, it'd have to be an up to number. You know,
Okay.
I mean, if it was up to like $500, at least we got a stopgap there, and then see how far that goes. I mean, that's a lot of trash for $500. It's like a lot. $55 a ton.
I'll just pay for it.
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, then we will move to reports, appointments,
Before
directives.
before you go on,
Yes, sir,
I'd like
sorry.
to follow up. I'd like to move that we adopt Resolution R 2024-05, Nelson County Board of Supervisors support of housing opportunities and fee waivers for the NCCDF
I mean,
projects.
and I would amend that to be up to $500. That's my motion.
Well, we have Mr. Reed's motion.
Aye.
Mr. Reed, would you?
I amended his motion.
The original motion's on the table.
Yeah, so
An amendment of a motion can happen while that motion is on the table.
Before it was seconded.
Yes, before it was seconded. So I amend it to be up to $500.
I second the amendment or the motion that was amended.
Okay.
I believe the person making the original motion has to accept the amendment.
They don't have to, by Robert's rules. Where is our,
I think we've been here before.
we've done this before, Ernie.
We did it before, and your ruling at that time was incorrect, so,
Well, which one
although
was
it
right?
did go through. You have to amend, if I don't accept the amendment, the original motion's on the table.
Okay,
If
well-
it doesn't get seconded,
All
then
right.
you can have
All
an
right,
additional.
let's just let that sit
We
there
have-
then, and we'll wait a second.
We
handle
have-
it that way. So we have a
I
motion.
rescind my amendment for the time being, for the sake of letting the motion sit on the floor.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? The motion is approval of resolution R 2024-05 as presented. Second? Anybody? Hearing no second, the motion dies for lack of a second.
All right, moving to the same resolution, R 2024-05. I approve it as presented with the amendment of an up to $500.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 2024-05 with the amendment of $500 cap. Any discussion?
What's the timeframe for a $500 cap?
I'm-
Can it be
To July?
It would be
To
till
July.
July.
Till this
Well, to
coming
June 30th.
I guess, because
And
we
we
have to
will
vote on it. again in
reevaluate
July.
effective July 1.
Yeah, that should be plenty.
And at that time, we would like to know how much it was for future rulings, yeah?
Sounds good.
All right, so any other discussion? Hearing none. Amanda?
Sligan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes. All right,
Thank you.
thank you all. All right, now we will move on to reports, appointments, directives, and correspondence. Mr. Gary?
First of all, I'd like to officially welcome South District Supervisor Jessica Ligon.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome. My first part of my report is typically about the comprehensive plan, so we'll begin there. Our project website is www.nelson2042.com. Board and Planning Commission members have received the final draft documents for review. The final draft of the 2042 comprehensive plan has been posted on the project website for public review, and a press release has been issued regarding public review of the draft by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. That was attached to your report in the packet. Public hearings have been scheduled, the first with the Planning Commission is on January 31st, 2024 at 7 p.m. And the second with the Board of Supervisors is on March 20th, 2024, also at 7 p.m., with both hearings being at Nelson County High School, 6919 Thomas Nelson Highway. Dissemination of all of this information is in progress. The county and Nelson County Service Authority staff are meeting with CHA, the contracted consultant, for the term engineering contract on Wednesday, January 10th. And this will be to establish the scope of the PERs for evaluation of the Livingston water and wastewater system capacities, which will include evaluation of the Diller Creek area for a water impoundment and treatment plant, and also revitalization and modernization of the old Livingston wastewater treatment plant. Staff will advise the board of the cost of these proposals for this work upon receipt. Our next work group meeting on the DSS building will be held January 16th, and this will be to review a preliminary floor plan and discuss preliminary building interior and exterior design concepts. Staff also has a Zoom call scheduled with Davenport, our financial advisors, and Sands Anderson, who are our bond counsel, on our financing options and timeline on January 11th. The FY 24-25 budget is quickly approaching. The agency request binders are being provided to the board for review while staff develops the draft general fund revenues and expenditures. A proposed budget calendar has been developed, which includes general fund budget introduction at the March 12th regular meeting, work sessions to follow on Tuesdays and Thursdays through March and into April if necessary. The public hearing will be scheduled at the May 14th regular meeting, and adoption and appropriation of the budget at the June 11th regular meeting. The proposed calendar is attached to this report in the packet. These dates are certainly subject to change pending board input and rate of progress as we move through the budget cycle. So don't let me forget to give you your big binders right here to start looking at.
Oh, no. They're not green?
They're not green, they're white this year. Yep.
You're going to have a fear of 3-ring binders by the end of this.
I went to graduate school.
I'm not
can't
entirely
see.
sure if we typically do a spreadsheet that shows the current agency request and then the next budget year request and the difference. If that's not in there, we will get that to you shortly.
Can you send the spreadsheet?
Yes, we'll send the spreadsheet. As far as the Route 151 corridor study, VDOT's online public survey on the updated plan concluded on January 2nd. Next steps will be coordinated, I guess, between VDOT and staff on that update. The Piney River Solar LLC special exception, that's in Amherst County's purview. There's no change on that. That matter has been further deferred until February 20th. Let's see, I've got a couple things to add, just a couple of community meetings I'd like to point out.
Oh, yeah.
They're both actually occurring tomorrow at the Nelson Memorial Library. First from 3 to 4:30 p.m. There's a DEQ community meeting on the Hat and Black Creek water quality study. And that's where they're monitoring those two creeks for phosphorus and sediment TMDLs. Also, there will be a meeting on the proposed Shipman Historic District. It's a kickoff meeting that'll start at 6 p.m. at the library. So tomorrow's a busy day. Otherwise, you all have received your other department and staff reports for January. And do you have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. McGarry? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have board reports.
You're on day 8. 9.
None from me.
9.
I met with Mr. Tanny, who spoke earlier during public comments, and other Stony Creek residents about the Agua rate increase. And looked into it pretty extensively in the SEC filing, and also talked with a colleague of ours, Mr. O'Brien, who's on the Fluvanna
Fluvanna Board of Supervisors.
Board of Supervisors, and of course half of their population is Lake Monticello. So just to try to put some of this in perspective based on the request that was made during public comments. Looking at the increases, the SEC, which is staffed by ex-industry and utility personnel, they're the people with the expertise, of course, traditionally look favorably on rate increases that are done on behalf of not just water utilities, but also electric utilities like Dominion. And I've got some experience dealing with that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, their rate structure applies to all of the Agua Virginia holdings in the Commonwealth, which means that because the uniqueness of each different water system does not at all play into the difference in rates paid. The rates are equalized for all of them. And the Stony Creek system is actually a very cost-effective system to run. As Mr. Tanny mentioned in his in what he submitted to the board, the water is mostly well water. It's just Department of Health in terms of the quality of that, and very little treatment is done so there's very little water treatment that goes on, whereas the majority, if not all of the other Agua holdings have to do with very extensive water treatment facilities for drinking water, which includes, staff, materials, infrastructure, and all that. Because Stony Creek doesn't have any of that, Stony Creek kind of becomes a cash cow for Agua Virginia relative to the other holdings that they have. It's an unfortunate situation, but that's how it's done. Because that's how it's done, and because of the request being made to the SEC by the other counties and Mr. Tunney, the likelihood that their challenge to the amount or the rate increase is probably not going to result in a favorable outcome. And for Stony Creek in particular, it would not at all solve the main problem, which is that Agua Virginia, will continue to utilize the Stony Creek system, both sewer and wastewater wastewater and drinking water, to its own financial benefit and to the cost that the Stony Creek residents have to pay. That being the case, while I'm sympathetic to the residents there, and also sympathetic to their intentions that this increase is not warranted in their specific case, again, getting any resolution on this is extremely unlikely. So I just don't think it would be in our best interest to consider signing off and providing money for the legal challenges that may happen to this rate increase. I think we're just a victim of it and have to suck it up for the time being. The only solution that I see to this in the long term is somehow dealing with the relationship between Stony Creek and Agua Virginia in terms of being their choice for their sewer and water. Agua Virginia owns the water system, so I'm not sure what the ins and outs of that is, but I'm definitely open to considering what a longer-term solution to their problems with Agua Virginia might look like. So that's my report.
Phew. You went to the PDC meeting. Oh, wait, we didn't have one.
Mm-mm. Trying to think about where it was, when the last one was, but
December.
Yeah, yeah. I have no other reports.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rutherford.
Welcome. We're excited to have the first female representative of the South District. That's a big deal. We're excited to celebrate with you on this board. Look forward to lots of success and lots of big projects ahead. And we, I meant to do this in the beginning, but we won't always get along. We're always going to butt heads, but we always, at the end, are looking out for the constituents. So we're looking forward to that and good efforts for the future of Nelson. Other than that, I did have a brief meeting with the sheriff. I don't know if you have two referencing cars. We'll talk about that, I guess, later after this meeting, a little bit about that. He has some vehicle needs that could be that are transpiring sooner than later. Other than that, PDC meeting was real brief. We didn't really have too much that happened in December. Regional Housing Partnership, we're kind of in a little bit of a limbo right now. We should be having some quarterly meetings coming up and trying to plan out our events. As it's related to anything else at the moment, Livingston Village Association, we have some pretty cool stuff that's going to be coming on the horizon. We are probably going to be getting the ask for the fireworks for the 4th of July a little bit sooner this time. That way we're not trying to beat the clock in May. So I'll probably have them outreach to staff before that ask comes. And that's about all I know. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you all for your vote of confidence and look forward to serving as chair for the next year. Social services, as Ms. McGarry reported, we are moving forward. I believe our next meeting is going to be on the 16th, our regular meeting day. That afternoon, we also have a building committee meeting. So we'll be looking at preliminary floor plan and some design ideas. So
Is PMA moving a little bit quicker?
anyway, getting excited. That's going to be a fun meeting. Seeing some concepts and some ideas on what the building will look like and getting some interior design layout for the staff. The idea is to build this from the inside out. So what square footage we need, what the needs are for the staff, and then designing the building around those needs. Of course, building in some growth expectations. So moving forward on that. Other than that, that's all I have on board reports. Next up, we have appointments, which I believe we have one appointment to consider. Is that correct?
Is that just Andy Wright? I don't have my spreadsheet. There it is.
Thomas Jefferson Water Resources Protection Foundation, Andy Wright.
Yeah, we'll put him back on there. Mr. Chair, I move we put Andy Wright back on there.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
There we go. So Thomas Jefferson Water Resources Protection Foundation, term expired December 31st. Andy Wright to be reappointed. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Mr. Wright is reappointed. All right. Any correspondence? Anyone have anything to share?
I had a question. In reading the minutes that we voted on from July, it looked like there was availability for public comment for TOT tax vote that did not happen at the vote on December. And there's some people that didn't love that, and we were wondering if that was legal or not, really, in the rules of Robert's rules.
I'll let Mr. Gary, if you will, address that.
Sure, I can speak to that. The board actually held 2 public hearings and only one was actually necessary by code. We follow code section 15.2, 1427 in the adoption of ordinances in which changing of the TOT tax rate would have been done by ordinance or was done by ordinance. The first public hearing was held on April 28th in 2022. There was no action taken on that proposed amendment, and it was deferred until the May 10th, 2022 regular meeting. At that meeting, the proposed ordinance was reconsidered with no action taken, and then that committee was created to kind of review the tax payment enforcement efforts. That committee met throughout the year, and because no action was taken on the previous ordinance, a new public hearing is not required by statute. However, the board did authorize a second public hearing at the April 8th, 2023 continued meeting, and that public hearing was held on May 9th, 2023. And action was deferred after the public hearing. So when the board holds public hearings on ordinances in particular, you can either take action that night or defer action to a future date. And there is no time frame or statute of limitations in which you have to act. I hope that answers that
You
question.
had, do you want to talk about the fire question?
Which one?
What we're going to talk about this evening?
Oh,
That would be a good time.
For our next meeting, put a little bug in people's ears. I was talking to some guys at the Piney River Fire Department and then actually some at Livingston, and there are actually quite a few members that do not reside in Nelson County. So I just wanted y'all to ponder that because the tax breaks really don't benefit those guys. One of them is the fire chief
Yes.
at Piney River, lives in Amherst. So, and he is a very active fellow. So, I would love to advocate for some sort of compensation other than tax break, or in replacement of tax break, I should say, for those guys that are helping our community that don't live here. So, that's my
I
thoughts
certainly
there.
think that's a good point to bring up tonight
Absolutely.
at the public hearing. I think we should hold a public hearing on the
Yeah.
ordinance as proposed and have those conversations, and then, we can go from there in terms of what your directive to staff would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Follow up.
It may be something to follow up on that. We could try to get the emergency council to kind of lead us into what that should look like, dollar cent wise, and how we not police that, but create some level of standard that is consistent across all the fire departments for this to qualify. But we can get this public hearing out of the way, send those directives to those appropriate entities, and give us a better idea of what makes sense.
It's a very unique situation for Piney River. I don't know that we have that in Rockford.
Actually, there's some in Rockfish.
There might be.
Too, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, I guess we probably, well, in Gladstone, I think that the chief in Gladstone is the same. I don't think he lives in Nelson. I think he lives in Appomattox.
Where does Ray Cook live? He's like on the
But it's a very good point and something that we need to discuss with staff and see. It's a fine line to me between giving a credit and taking away an expense and turning around and paying somebody something. It's like, what can we do? What should we do?
Yeah.
But we definitely have leaders and very active firemen, I know, in Piney River. I believe one's coming tonight who lives across the road from the chief, who will be speaking. He's an Amherst County resident as well, but those guys are in Piney River all the time.
So they've been getting nothing this whole time?
No, never. They've never gotten anything. Yeah.
Huh.
So it's definitely something that if we have a way to work around that, it would be appreciated, I know. I don't think, that doesn't take away from what we're doing tonight,
No,
of course,
no,
but
it gets
it is
us up
something
here a
that we
little bit.
need to look at. What options do we have? So,
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up. Where were we? Correspondence?
Yeah, it's correspondence.
Yeah. Any other correspondence? Anybody? All right, moving on. Directives? Anybody have anything?
We're proud, as soon as we finally get a final sketch and we've talked to VDOT and finalized some stuff, I had mentioned the Livingston Gateway sign that we're still working on. So we might be bringing that up in the future. This is not more of a direct, this is more of a, I'll be sending it over at some point for consideration. Second thing was, did we get the flower ladies figured out with their disbursement for Livingston?
Linda can probably answer that better than me.
Yes, we did.
Okay,
They are receiving a check in both of their names.
okay,
So that there's some accountability, and they also had a directive from us in finance to just simply give us a periodical report
okay,
of their expenditures so that we can track how far the money's going.
okay,
And they do have the 2-year period to spend it. That check was written today.
gotcha, all right. That's it. I have nothing else.
Anything else, anybody for the afternoon session?
Are we scheduling a retreat soon?
That's something we should have discussed when we met yesterday.
Oh, yeah, we can discuss that. Man, the issue's gonna be fitting it in and when.
Yeah. So typically, like, Jessica, sorry.
That was my nickname.
I know.
So it's okay.
We have a periodic, it's not really a retreat, we just go and we spend a whole day and we talk about goals. It's open to the public. And we have a long discussion for like 6, 7, 8 hours about capital improvements, kind of general goals, what we see, maybe just helps give staff some kind of idea of where we're headed. And, we haven't done one, I think, in at least 2.5 years or so. It was pre-Candy.
That's correct.
Yes.
It was December of
21.
21,
That's
yes.
correct.
So,
Yeah, 2 years.
Well, you and I are going to a conference about goal setting.
yeah, we are. Sticky notes and
teaching
pieces.
things. So we should do that first.
Oh, yeah,
The
the end
goal
of this
setting
month.
education, I mean.
This,
When is that?
you talking about DACO?
February.
Yeah, yeah,
1st of February.
Oh, yeah, we'll practice.
We'll practice.
We'll practice
Teach you
before
what we've
you're,
learned.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
But yeah,
I think we definitely have some
don't
capital
you two-
improvement things already in motion.
Sure.
So I don't know how much.
Well, I mean,
more
we
need to discuss.
We haven't gotten to the point where we're having public hearings for bond creation yet. So, and that's not to say that things like the high school are changing, but it's just probably something as we're looking to the foresight of what it is, what the ambitions of the board are going to be over the next 2-3 years. I mean, the decisions we make over the next 2 years are going to have 20 years worth of impact in terms of debt service. So I would personally defer to you two to discuss and figure out a game plan, and then just come to us for a consensus of what makes sense after you guys kind of structure that with your budget. Hopefully the ambition for the budget is long, hard few days. So,
I know Mr. Reed's out of town through January.
where are you going?
Correct.
West Coast.
We'll do it without him.
So,
It'll be after that anyway.
Yeah, I'll be back,
February meeting.
I'll be back 27th.
Okay.
Of January.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be gone anyway.
So, all right, we'll
That's it.
get together. Anything else? All right, so what do I do here?
You're gonna ask me to continue this meeting.
Continue. So I'll entertain a motion that we continue this meeting until 7 p.m.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this meeting to 7.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Meeting is continued until 7.
4 o'clock. Heck, yeah, good job.